Hi everyone, it's Nicole here today with a scene card created almost entirely out of die cuts using Lawn Fawn dies. We've got just a little bit of stamping here and there, the sign, the greeting on the sign, the sentiment on the dog bone plaque on the doghouse, and then on the inside of the card. We're going to do some shading on colored cardstock with Copics, as well as completely customizing some of the images by coloring them in with Copic markers. I love creating completely die-cut scene cards, and this is a great one for somebody who maybe is in a new home or something, just a fun little take on it using this cute little dog in a doghouse in lieu of a regular little house. I decided to build the background of my card with some fish tank ink, the life-changing blending brushes, and a cloud stencil. I've already pre-die cut many of the elements for my card off camera to save time, so I can simply put them together and do the coloring on camera today. Let's start by building the doghouse. I've die cut the panels for the house from some smooth white cardstock. We're going to blend in some warm gray 0, 0, and 3 to give the white doghouse a little bit of a weathered look. Along the top edge of each panel for the doghouse, I'm going to put some 1/8 inch score tape and then assemble the 4 panels together to build the doghouse base. I love that even though these were made for the Scalloped treat box as an add-on, that you can find ways to use these on flat cards like I'm doing here today. It makes a great little accent for all kinds of different cards. You can even consider using some of the other Scalloped treat box add-ons, building little houses for your cards with those as well. We've got one more panel for the house, and then we can start working on the roof. I wanted to have the illusion of being nailed together, so I will be taking a black pen and adding some nail detail along each side. I've also glued in place the doorway on the doghouse that was die cut from some black licorice cardstock. For the roof, we're going to use R46 and R59, I believe. Yes, R59. And I'm going to add some fun shading to the roof of the house. This gives the die cuts more depth and dimension. Once we have our shading done, we're going to go ahead and adhere this to the top of the doghouse with another piece of score tape or double-sided tape. For the name plaque on the doghouse, there is this larger bone included in the Scalloped treat box doghouse add-on. There's also a smaller one that fits in the dog dish. I'm going to color both of those with warm gray 0, 0 and warm gray 3. To customize the name plaque or the little house plaque for the doghouse, I'm going to use a sentiment stamp from the Happy Village stamp set, masking off part of the greeting, so I'm just stamping the word home on that bone and then gluing it to the doghouse. The dog bowl is going to be colored with R46 and R59 as well, just like the roof of the doghouse. And then of course the bone was colored with warm gray 0, 0 and 3. We're going to tuck it inside the dog dish bowl with a little glue tube liquid adhesive. Next, we're going to add shading to the tree in the Leafy tree backdrop landscape. This was die cut from some chocolate bar Lawn Fawn cardstock. I'm only going to color the tree itself by feathering in a couple of shades of brown. We're going to layer a stitch rectangle frame over this as the actual frame so that the frame is white and the tree is the only thing that's brown. I'm also going to feather in G28 on a simple Grassy Hillsides border. We're going to do 2 of these, one in the back and then one in the front. I always like to layer these as I think it makes the scene look a little bit more realistic. I'm only feathering that color down and not really blending it out at all. I just want the grass texture on those blades of grass. For the tennis ball, it was die cut from CILANTRO cardstock. I also die cut the leaves for the tree from the Leafy tree backdrop using the CILANTRO cardstock and then feathering in my colors with YG17 and YG25. The dog was die cut from smooth white cardstock and colored in with several shades of brown markers with E43, 44, and 47. We'll use a little R20 for the cheeks. I'm going to keep adding color and building that up until I get the coloring just the way I want it to look for this cute little dog. Included in the doghouse add-on is a little bow. You can make a bow tie, or you can add 2 little bows or even one to the ears of the dog to make it a little girl. I decided to die cut 2 bows from Fawn sunflower cardstock that I'll be adding to the top of the dog's head at each ear. I've also die cut the dog again from black licorice cardstock, and we're going to use the eyes and the nose from that piece to inlay into the dog. Out of the Shadow Box Card Park add-on, there's a great little bird in this. There's actually birds in several stamp sets, so you can pick the one that you like the best for your card design. I also die cut this from smooth white cardstock, and I'm coloring it in with Copic markers with Y11, BG11, BG13, and YR04. We'll also die cut this from black cardstock again to inlay the eye for the bird. Once we have most of the basics out, let's go ahead and start putting it together to see if there's anything else we need for the card. Starting with the grass in the background, we're going to lay this over our stenciled cloud backdrop. Then we're going to adhere the leafy tree backdrop landscape over our background. I love using the double-sided adhesive tape to do this. It's the perfect width and works great. We'll also go ahead and adhere the doghouse next. We're working our way from the back to the front. I'm going to adhere my white stitched rectangle frame over top everything, which instantly makes the tree pop a little more and not blend into the border of the card. And we're going to finish with another border of grass right along the bottom edge. We're going to tuck the dog back behind the grass in front of the doghouse, as well as the dog dish and bone. We're going to add some adhesive to the eyes and nose areas of the dog and inlay those pieces. I'm going to add some liquid adhesive to the ears on the dog and adhere the bows. And also adhere the tennis ball by the dog dish. We're going to glue the bird in place and then the leaves on the tree. Now there's still a little bit of open space along the bottom edge of the card where I really felt like we needed another embellishment of some sort. And I don't really have a sentiment on my card, at least not on the front. So I've stamped the sign from the Open Me stamp set with Ink on 3 Fade Out No Line Coloring ink. We're going to take some Copic markers and do a little no line coloring for this sign. The no line coloring is going to tie in to the die cuts of the rest of the card much better than if I would have stamped this with a black outline ink. It almost has the illusion of being completely another die cut piece rather than a separate piece altogether. I'm going to work on building up my coloring and my shading until I get that sign looking just the way I want it to look. I'm using E53, 55, and 57. E53 was the base here. It really gets covered up for the most part, but it's a nice little highlight area through the middle of my sign. I'm going to keep blending and working those colors together until I get it exactly the way I want it to look. And then we'll stamp a sentiment from Open Me on the sign that says, "Psst, look inside." I think this is such a fun stamp set. If you have something on the inside of your card, it lets the recipient know that there's something else going on. In this case, it's just going to be a stamped sentiment, but I think it's a fun little accent that fills in the area of the card and also adds a little bit of a little bit of text to the front of the card instead of being just completely a scene. I'm always looking for ways to incorporate more text or more images into more text areas into scene cards. We're going to glue that sign in place using the Glue Tube liquid adhesive. And the front of our card is almost all finished now. We just need to glue this in place on a side fold card base. I'm going to take a fine tip pen and add eyelashes to the dog, and then take a white pen and add highlights to the eyes on the dog and the eye on the bird. We'll put some glossy accents over the nose on the dog so it has a glossy raised finish. For the inside of the card, we'll take our side fold card base and stamp a sentiment from that Happy Village stamp set that reads, "Congrats on your new home." We're going to stamp that with lobster red ink so that the red ties into the red of the roof of the doghouse and the dog bowl on the front of the card. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this new home doghouse card featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.